topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join your host, who is a multiple #1 international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer. She's the founder of Genuinely Hyphen You and has 30 years experience of helping people step into their genuine, authentic power. And now, here is Gina Gardner, your host of Leadership for Life.
Hello there, and thanks so much for joining me on the show today. We've got a great show for you. It's all about communication. And if you think about it, TV, radio, it's all about communication. But what message do you give to other people? In the first section of the show, I'm going to focus on the message that we give in our personal lives. And I'm really thrilled to be joined in the second part of the show by the queen of stage conversations, Erin Loman Jeck. She is an amazing lady and brings a wealth of experience in helping business people actually speak from the stage and significantly raises their bottom line. But enough of that. Let me start with communication, the message that you give. And it's interesting how many people fail to recognize that actually you're giving a huge message without even opening your mouth. Your body language, the way you hold yourself, the very energy that you emit gives a message. I work with many people who have discovered that they are finding it really difficult to speak their truth, or they find it very hard to give a message that they believe other people will find difficult to hear. And so they say nothing. They think that confronting the issue is the same as being confrontational, and in fact it's not. It's my view that when any two people are speaking, there is in reality 3 languages being spoken. The language of person A, the language of person B, who may be using the same words but doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. And then when relationships are going well, what you create is a language which is the third language, which is the language of both people, which is neither one nor the other. So imagine you're talking fruit. Fruit is the language, the combined language of both. But one, if they're speaking, are talking oranges and the other is speaking apples. Being very clear about what you mean, whether you're in your personal life or in your professional life, is so important. We make huge assumptions that the words that we use are being received in the same way in which we send them out. But the reality is very often different. That what we say and how we say it very often is what colours the message. I mean, how often have you been triggered by somebody who's used a particular tone of voice that's really made you cross, and yet the words that they've spoken are quite simple and quite straightforward and don't deserve the response that they get? And that's because they've triggered an old situation and made you feel that you're being nagged or that somebody's being unkind or unfair. Communication has to be a two-way thing, and I believe we've been given 2 ears and a mouth for a very good reason. And so it's so important that we listen, and we listen actively. So often we're not actually listening to what's being said, we're listening to what we think is being said and respond to that habitually, rather than listen to what's being said with a view to wanting to understand the other person. Many people are very much focused on, well, how am I going to answer that? What am I going to say to rebut what they're saying, even though they haven't actively heard it yet? The communication that we use with people is what acts as the bedrock, if you like, for any relationship. But what about the communications you have with yourself? The likelihood is you're the most critical person that you're ever going to hear. There aren't many people who go on and on and on like that voice in your head. And yet the communication that you have with yourself is feeding the relationship that you have with you all the time. So communication is at so many levels. It's so complex, and yet it's so simple. If you recognize that, think about the things you want to say to people and think about how they might receive that and how you can make what you need to say not judgmental or critical, but simply the message that needs to be said. So, for example, very often arguments arise because one person will say, "You make me angry," or "You make me unhappy." That person is handing over the power of their emotional state to the other person, rather than saying, "When you do X or Y, I really don't like that because." Then you're criticizing the behavior and not the person. How often do you assume that other people are going to be mind readers? It's a really common thing that you expect other people to recognize what you want them to hear, but you haven't actually used the words. I know many people who will flounce out of a room or will bang the pots and pans when they want somebody to come and help them, but they haven't said, "Will you come and help?" They've just assumed that people will notice that they need some help, and the other person's completely oblivious. They're watching the telly, or they're just thinking about their stuff. So the communication that you use with yourself, with others, really does make such a huge difference to the relationship that you're going to have. And it's absolutely true with every relationship, personal and also professional. And it's even more important that the message that you offer when you are standing up on a stage, or you're running a training session, or you're trying to sell somebody something, it's really, really important that that message is clear and that you are able to deliver that in a way which is entirely authentic. Many people, personally, professionally, are very unhappy, very uncomfortable about being authentic. They try to present themselves as they think other people would wish to see them or hear them. And so the communication is not genuine. Think about the conversations you've had in the last few days. How often have you spoken and said what you wanted to say? One of the things I think that makes such a huge difference is the tone of voice that you use. And it's often the tone which upsets people. But using a neutral tone where you state your case and say, "I'd like you to do this, please," or "I'd rather you didn't do that," or "When this happens, I feel in this way." Using a neutral voice enables you to communicate the message, and it's more likely to be heard. When you use that edge to your voice, that whine, that nag, people latch onto that and they don't hear what you have to say. And they wriggle, they get angry with you or impatient with you. And it lets them off the hook in terms of what the real message is. How you present yourself, how you communicate with people, colors the relationship that you have, every moment that you spend with them, and then that leaves a legacy that goes on long after the meeting. Every word you speak or not, how you speak it, when you speak it, whether you say it at all leave a legacy. They all create an impression. They send a vibration, if you like, to that other person. And it's entirely up to you whether that's a positive, a neutral, or a negative one. But ask yourself, how often do you complain? How often are you critical? What's the impact of that? Is there a way of communicating that message without being judgmental or critical? You know, as I've watched things unfold in the world, and we've had a number of political situations and religious situations and things about race, things about family dynamics, that I'm often struck how often people are talking, but nobody's truly listening. Or because people don't get the response that they want, they assume that they're being ignored. When true communication happens, there is a toing and froing, both people listening, both people, or if it's a large group of people, all those people involved, actually listening to the message. And even if they don't agree, spending time to understand what that message is. But the clearer you are, the greater the clarity, the greater, in fact, the more simple the message is, the more likely it is to be understood. But another problem is people become very convoluted, and it's actually quite hard to determine what is the message in all of that rambling. And so if you want to give a message that is clear, that's going to be listened to, you need to be clear what that message is. And if needs be, write it down, practice it. But recognize that how you say it, when you say it's going to make a difference. What you say is important. And if you're constantly swallowing what you want to say because you don't want to upset someone, or because you're frightened that people will think less of you, that has an impact on you. It has an impact on your sense of well-being, your sense of self. So it is important that you communicate, speak your truth, but you do it in a way that's constructive. You know, I always think that it's easier to build a bridge or maintain a bridge than it is if the bridge isn't there. So don't burn your bridges with people. Find a way of communicating with them that leaves an opportunity for you to move forward. And recognize that when people are talking to you, that they may be being clumsy about it, but be forgiving. And think about what's the message? Why is it that they're saying that? So we're going to go into a break. And after the break, the queen of stage conversations, Erin Loman Jeck, is going to join us. And she's got a wealth of wisdom and experience to share. So see you in a couple of minutes.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email Gina at genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hello there. Welcome back. We've got a very exciting section now with Erin Jeck. She is the CEO of Transformational Speakers Agency, executive speaking coach. She's a TEDx speaking coach and the creator of Transformational Speakers Summit. Erin's approach to speaking is unique and powerful. She utilizes the psychology of connection to illustrate how you can unlock any audience's trust and rapport, which leaves them feeling better about themselves and are challenged to adopt your new idea or perspective. She's over a decade of documented results for speakers, increasing their bottom line and making additional hundreds of thousands of dollars in their speaking business. So without more ado, I'd like to welcome Erin to the show.
Hello.
Hi there. Thank you very much for joining me. You have had an amazing career and you do such incredible work with people. Can you talk us through, first of all, how you came to be there?
This is always the funniest thing. It's never the straight line, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't wake up when I was a child and go, I want to be a speaking coach. Like, it wasn't what I went to be a dolphin trainer. That was my dream job as a child.
Okay.
And I actually did that. But when I went, they told me I needed a psych degree or a teaching degree. And I was like, well, I love people and what motivates people and changing people. Like, I'm in on psychology. And so I actually went to college to be a marriage and family therapist. And during my clinicals, I'll have to say, it's when I was like, this isn't quite what I want. Because so many times people would come in and complain and not do anything different and keep coming back with the same problem. And I thought, I can't do this every day. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach, because at least in a coach, people are coming for transformation. And so that's literally how this all came. I was a business coach for many years and then just got into speaking, and everyone was like, you're so good at this. How can I be like you? And I was like, I don't know. I got to go figure that out. Let me reverse engineer this. I don't even know what I was doing, but I hired some of the best coaches and here I am today.
It's amazing. More and more, I think, businesses, people, particularly those people who are speaking on behalf of their business, whether it's the business owner or a representative, get a small window of opportunity to get their message across and to create rapport. And these days, very often through Zoom or Team Builder or some electronic device. What for you are the real principles of creating that rapport in a constructive and business-like way?
Yes, this is so important. It was exactly the things that you were talking about. I call it the 4 parts of compelling communication. Nonverbal communication is 50%. So let's just say you're about to take stage. You're starting to walk up to the stage. Everyone's watching you. They're taking in all your nonverbal. Then you get up on stage and they're watching and they're thinking, is this really somebody I'm going to put my phone down for? Is it somebody I really want to pay attention to? And are they confident in their message? Because I need to know that they are before I'm going to listen, right? So nonverbal communication, and now digitally and online, you really have to use your facial expressions.
You certainly do.
I am using my hands, even though, I'm a square little box, right? But you get more of me and you understand more of me when you see that. And so I love that nonverbal communication, using your eyebrows, is one of the biggest keys in, especially in this world right now, right? Because this actually shows interest and curiosity. When you see something you like, or you see somebody hot walk in the room, your eyebrows go up. And so if you can do that in your communication, people feel seen, they feel validated, they feel like I'm actually, responding to you, even though this is a one-way conversation in this exact moment. You can feel the difference in that. And you're like, wow, she really sees me. So that's a huge one, is all the nonverbal stuff.
Isn't it interesting? Because I think the best speakers actually have the capacity to help each person within the audience, whether that's 1 or 2,000, feel they're speaking to me, that they're speaking directly to me. And that is so much about the body language, about the facial expression, about eye contact, even through a camera.
Uh-huh. And the second one, what you were also talking about was tonality. So tonality is 30% of what the audience is taking in. So right now you're actually hearing us, and there's 4 pieces of that. There's pitch, there's pace, there's tone, and there's volume. If you really want someone to resonate with you, you have to project your voice. Right now you can hear the vibrations coming through your speakers, and you're resonating physically with those vibrations. If you want someone to resonate with your message, let them feel your message. And they're subconsciously, they're going, wow, I really resonate with Erin. And it's because they're resonating with the sound waves. So that's really an important one. Tonality can be so much, like you were saying, if I said something like, can I have a raise? Or if I say, can I have a raise? Or can I have a raise? They all 3 mean different things because of the tone. And so it's really important to work on this. And most people don't know anything about tone, but it really is the most impactful. And I'll tell you why. Like I said, psychology here. When you actually use melody in your voice, you unlock the episodic part of someone's memory. So this is why we can turn on the radio and know all the lyrics to songs from 20 years ago, but maybe don't remember what you ate for breakfast, right? Because it unlocks a different part of your memory. So when you use melody in your voice, you actually become memorable. So it's huge, because even in your, I use this every day with my children, or my dog, let's be honest. You're like, oh, you're so cute. Sit, right? But we don't do that in our normal talking voice, and we need to, because it actually makes the other person really feel you. And then the last 2, they're really quick. Storytelling is 13%, and the words are 7%. Nobody really cares about the words that you choose as long as they know how you feel. Because you can say something that might be taken and be a painful thing, but if you use a good tone with it, they're like, huh? Wait, was that supposed to be an insult? And it's not.
And I think that comes down so much to people owning themselves, being authentic about what they're saying, that, recognizing that when you give a part of you through your speech, people can actually make contact with that and feel as if there is a connection. And it's all about connection, isn't it? I mean, you're the connections queen. So I'm talking to our listeners and our viewers, that recognizing how important connection is, and that you can make that connection. But you've almost got to get out of your own way, haven't you, in order to do it?
Yeah, what we see a lot in speaking, I know that everybody's going to resonate with this. We've seen speakers that get up there and are like, me, I, look at me with my yacht, look at me with my jet, me, look what I've done. And we're like, what's in it for me? I'm sitting here listening to you. Are you just want to talk about yourself? And so I think a lot of times people want to tell a story in their speech, but what happens is they make it so me focused, and it needs to be we and us. When I say something like, when we get angry and our fist balls up, our chest gets tight and that vein's popping, instead of saying I was so angry that my fist ball just got tight, right? You're making it about us because we're in it together. Yeah. And so stop telling your story like it's a task list. First I did this, then I did this, then this, then this. Enroll the audience in the whole thing. That's why you watch movies. You're enrolled in it. You're watching the story play out, and you're finding places in you that resonates with the characters on the screen. Same thing in speaking. You need to enroll them into that beautiful vision, that beautiful movie that you're talking about in your story, because then they start to find their own stories, right? Yeah. And when they do that, they actually elicit their own oxytocin, and now you're bonded. So you're feeling oxytocin because you're telling your story. They're feeling oxytocin because they relate to your story, and now they want anything you're about to sell. This is key.
It's interesting, isn't it, how so many people forget that, and particularly now, there are so many other things that people can be doing. You talked about the phone, or people are doing their shopping list in their head. Unless there is something in it for them, the response is, so what? ultimately it's got to matter to the person who's listening. Otherwise, they're not going to engage, or certainly they're not going to stay, and they're not going to do anything about it at the end of it, are they?
Yeah, they really won't, until you enroll them in their story. That is the key. Enrolling those people in their stories. I can tell you that my very first speaking engagement, I was 10, standing room only, not a dry eye in the room. It was my dad's funeral. You might not relate to being at your dad's funeral and speaking, but if I start to tell you, I was so scared that I was shaking. The paper, I didn't know if I could get through it all. And I cleared my voice. All of those things we've experienced in some way, right? And it just all of a sudden changed the story into something that the human connection. We have feelings, we have thoughts, and we have physical reactions in our body that we can say, like when I talked about being angry, you know what that anger feels like, right? Because I depictedly told you what it felt like. And you're like, oh, I get mad like that too. So those things are the human connection. You've got to use thoughts and feelings, and interchangeably, because you have a lot of thinkers and a lot of feelers. And if you're only talking about feelings, the guys are going to tune out, and the women that are thinkers will tune out. But if you use them interchangeably, I mean, you could say, I was thinking I wasn't good enough. I was feeling not good enough. Same thing, but the people will hear it different if they're thinkers or feelers.
It's interesting that when you used the example of talking at your father's funeral, and that resonates with me. I did that, but I was, decades older than you. But even if people haven't done that, I think that they can tune into the emotion of, first and foremost, isn't it supposed to be one of the most scary things that people fear is to stand up in public and talk? But at the same time, everybody resonates with losing somebody that they love, and that draws them in. I think one of the things I'd like to explore with you, and in the time that we have, is for many people who are business people listening to this, one of the things that they are concerned about is making their talk actually have an impact on their bottom line. So can you talk us through that again? What are your strategies for getting paid? And you talk about getting paid even before you've left the event, and that sounds wonderful. So I'm sure our listeners and viewers will be really gratified to hear how you do that.
Yeah, the thing that you don't realize is everything I just said, those 4 pieces, if you can do that, you're nailing your talk. So if you only work on those 4 things, the nonverbal, the tonality, the storytelling, and some of the words, making sure they're powerful words, they're not wishy-washy words. Oh, maybe, I hope, you might buy, or things like that. It's really important to think about building that know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. You have to build that before you get on that stage. So one things that I do is if I'm going to fly to go speak somewhere, I actually ask the host if we can do a Facebook Live in their group. They get exposure to me. And they more people get excited about wanting to come. So it helps her as an event producer, right? Yeah. So she's happy because she wants more butts and seats. I'm happy because I'm getting to build the know, like, and trust. From that, I send them to a free webinar to get them primed to learn more about me and learn more about speaking, and to say, this is going to help you when I show up in 2 weeks from now. And so I have them pay for, I have them opt in for free to a free webinar. At the end of the webinar, I tell them that after my speech is done, usually the next day, I will host a deep dive workshop for 2 hours, still building more that know, like, and trust. How long you're in front of people, the more you can ask for. So now they've spent at least that amount of time before I even show up, and they're going to get a discount to that workshop. So I have made all my money to fly, to stay somewhere before I even left my house.
Sounds great. Sounds absolutely great. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's so many people out there, there's so much white noise that what you're doing within that is giving people an opportunity, as you say, to see you, to hear you, to recognize that this is someone that I want to hear more. But it also means that when they come to listen to the talk, that they're listening in a very different way than if you are this random person who's just turned up on the stage. They've already got a vested interest in turning their phones off, stopping their shopping list, and getting on.
Yeah.
It's great stuff.
It is. And the other thing is, then when you show up, this is a fun thing. Hold on. Here is the things that I do at my tables to like get people to come to my tables. This is a little ring light. You can put it on your phone, so you can do Facebook Live. So I actually turn these all on, put them on my tables. People are literally putting them on their phones. I go, look, guys, when you have really great lighting, it looks like Botox in a bulb. So I'm telling them that. They're all putting it on. Everyone else is like, what's going on at that booth over there? Everyone's doing this with a light. What's happening? I'm like, yeah, take a picture. Now take a picture with the light on. And they can immediately see it. I buy these for $4.
Yeah.
And I sell them for $25. I usually never even have one with me because people buy them off my phone.
Goodness me. I think I need to know about those. I need more than Botox. I love it. So, okay, that's when you're allowed to sell from the stage. But what about when you go, and I've been involved in lots of conferences where people say, yes, come and speak, but one of our rules is no selling from the stage.
So we all know, like, we're already going to connect in those 4 parts of compelling communication. You seed the entire time. When people hire me to speak, when I work one-on-one with my clients, when I have my workshops or in my TEDx workshop, right? Like all of those things you start saying, people are writing it down. You know, I really watch this because every time I see a big name speaker, let's say even Brendan Burchard, I remember he was selling into High Performance Academy. Yeah. And I really wanted Experts Academy. So as he's speaking, he's not talking about High Performance Academy until he gets to his pitch. But he had said, I have World's Greatest Speaking Training. I have, you know, the Experts Academy. I have all these other things. So you're writing down notes so that you know to go look those things up if he doesn't give you a pitch for it, right? Because you're like, I didn't want that. But you know what? That World's Greatest Speaking Training, that sounds awesome. So he's selling without selling. And it's so important.
It's interesting because I that's the sort of selling that appeals to me as a listener. If somebody comes on and does a hard pitch, I'm often turned off. But when somebody is giving me real value, that they're talking about something that that resonates with me and I want to know more, then I'm very happy to then go and research and go and find them and spend money and time on doing whatever it is, the course or the product or buying the book. So it's interesting, isn't it? And I'm sure that there are people who prefer the direct sales, but it's horses for courses and actually having a variety. And I'm assuming that even if you're going to have a pitch, that you want to seed your speech with the things that you do and how that can help people.
Yeah, it's even if you can sell, like I teach how to transition into a sales because a lot of times people are like, here's my story, here's my 3 pieces of content. Now, how do I go from a teaching role to now a salesman role? And I think this is even more difficult for women because we're selling ourselves and that feels a little risque. It feels like a little like a prostitute sometimes. Like it's this feeling like I'm selling myself. But if you men look at it as actually this is the program, and even though it's all me, if it's coaching, it's me, but it's a program. So they're able to like take that part away from it. But it really truly is this easy. You can say, and here's my story. I struggled. One of the reasons I started teaching speaking was because I remember my son is now 13, but he was in diapers, and I was like, "Don't worry, honey, I got a speech. I know we need more diapers. I'm going to go make the money tonight and I'll bring diapers home when I come home." And he was like, okay. And I remember leaving stage and getting in my car and everyone's like, that was awesome. And I had 0 sales. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for diapers. And I felt like I let my family down. And so that's why I created this speaking program, right? Do you see how easy of a transition that is? Yeah. When you use it in a way that you're also speaking to people. I mean, let's be honest, Gina, have you ever got off stage and not any sales and like, man, that's really frustrating?
I have indeed. I think there isn't a speaker alive who hasn't had that experience.
Yeah.
One of the things, because our time is short, and I want to give you time to tell people how to find you. But before I do, one of the things that strikes me is that when I always used to struggle around selling, until I can't even remember who it was now who said to me, yeah, but if you don't do that, then you're not giving people the opportunity to have your help. And so for me, the selling is all about, I am presenting you with the opportunity to have help, to solve whatever it is, or you don't have to have a problem, but actually to move things forward. And if I don't let you know about it, then I'm doing you a disservice. I just wonder what your views were in terms of how to incorporate that as an approach within the speaking from the stage.
I always say it's also not just doing them a disservice and you a disservice. It's actually, these people might be sitting there meditating, praying for you to show up. Maybe you're at a bookstore and you're standing there and this person's looking for a speaking book, a book on speaking. And you just happen to find yourself, right? Accidentally together, coincidence. And they say, man, do you know any good books on speaking? And I could just go, yeah, this one right here. Here you go. But if I did that, whoever put us together divinely, now we're like, I always say it's like giving the bird to the divine source that put us together. Because you're not they're like, hey, this person's been manifesting and praying for you and needing your help. And then you show up and you don't help. What's that? Like, you can't do that. And my line that I always share and that I'm very quoted very often with is, you cannot be a lighthouse to the world if you can't keep your own lights on. So don't make the sales about you. Make it about, like you said, solving their problems or what keeps them up at night. I go deep into psychographics. What's keeping them up at night? I got to speak to that and give the solution to that. Then it's not a sale. It's, here's your solution. Here's the book. Like, it's the same thing. You're just giving them what they needed.
And that seems to me, that feels comfortable for me, that if I'm helping someone, if I'm giving them either a solution to a problem or I'm giving them a gateway into new limitless possibilities, because it's not always about having a problem, but it is about growth, then I'm doing my job right.
Yes.
So it's been an absolute pleasure. But before we go, we need to know, how can they get hold of you and what have you got? What are you offering people at the moment?
Yes. So I go in depth with how to do a speech and make $10,000 every single time you hit the stage. It's really easy. It's 10kfromAnyStage.com. It really will have a blueprint for you and a video. So I walk you through step by step how I did it and my results so that you could really see it. Some of those rooms I was in was like a Toastmasters. And I didn't think that they would even buy something when they pay like, I don't know, $50 a year to be a part of Toastmasters. So I'm thinking that that's their investment level and I'm way more expensive than that. So I was like, I don't know. And I remember selling into a course but in that I'd seeded into working with me one-on-one and all these different things. And at the end, I had 3 people buy the course and I was like, well, at least that was worth my time or something. And then but I had 4 other people actually go and get on my calendar to have a VIP day with me. So out of that, I think I made $13,000 from a 1-hour speech.
I think most people would think that was a pretty good return, wouldn't they? So where can people get in contact with you?
Yes, you can go to erinlomanjeck.com. That's ErinLomanJeck.com. And I have tons of free resources there. You'll see lots of things. There's even a free webinar on how to land a TED Talk. There's a lot of great stuff for you. So go in there, play around. My calendar link's in there. There's a lot of things. And I think mostly you're going to get such great information from that 10kfromAnyStage.com because you really will have a blueprint to walk you through.
Absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll make sure that those details are in the show notes. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you again, but you have given us a lot of great information. Thank you and take care. Don't go away. I'll talk about your B1G1 choice because of time after the break. But as always, our guest is given the opportunity to choose something that we donate on their behalf to B1G1, buy one, give one. So I'll see you after the break. And Erin, thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for a Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email Gina at genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hello there. Thanks for coming back. As I said just before the break, that we are members of B1G1, buy one, give one. And every guest that comes on the show, we give them a choice of 3 different projects from around the world based on eradicating poverty, increasing education and good health, a whole range of topics. And the guest is invited to choose from 3 projects. Erin chose for hers to be involved in education. So Zimbabwe is a very poor country. There's widespread poverty and lack of opportunity. And through the Varna Trust, young children are given the opportunity to have education in a way that they wouldn't do if the Varna Trust wasn't actually running schools for them. And so the donation will go to the Varna Trust at the end of the month. All of my guests choose, and at the end of the month, I do the donations on their behalf. But also for every person who listens, or whether it's live or the recording, for every 100 people, we feed someone. Someone goes to bed feeling full rather than starving. So you can help just by spreading the word, getting people to listen either to the live show or to the recording. You can be making a real difference. If you're listening to this and you're a business owner and you'd like to be part of B1G1, then the details are in the show notes. Please do come on board. You don't have to give huge amounts of money if you're not in that position. Things are broken down, so it makes it very, very manageable and affordable. But go and have a look at the website, b1g1.org, and you can see all of the details there. And what's so amazing about the organization is they have a sister charity that actually raises the money for all of the infrastructure, all of the administration. So every penny that's donated through B1G1 goes to one of their projects, and none of it is spent on paying wages for the administration or the office or anything like that. Now, we have very few minutes left, and I just wanted to carry on the theme of communication, but to look at it from the point of business, not on the stage, but business within that organization, whether yours is your own business and you're an entrepreneur, or whether you're in the corporate world and you are within a team or a bigger part of the organization. Communication is absolutely crucial if you want your business to succeed and if you want your people to feel engaged. Having clear communication where people actually understand not only how to communicate, because so often in organizations, the communication is done in a way which is fragmented and leaves people not knowing what's going on. And there are lots of different ways to communicate, but for me, it all is determined by the quality of the leader. It is the leader who sets the tone, creates the culture, creates and shares the vision, and enables people to take ownership of that vision. And that all comes through effective communication. Now, if you are a business owner or if you're in the corporate world and you are running a team of people and you want to have better communication, be able to have those difficult conversations when perhaps things aren't going right, be able to set expectations that can minimize that problem. You'll want to be able to hold people to account in a really developmental way. Then if you go to ginagardnerassociates.co.uk, there are 1 and 2 day intensives designed to help you do just that. There are leadership courses there, but there is a communication course that is designed very specifically to help you communicate effectively within that business arena so that you're able to delegate more effectively. That will mean that you're spending less time, or that you don't have to have the form of delegation, which is quicker to do it yourself, because then at least you know you've done it properly. When you do communicate effectively and you keep people in the loop, people are more motivated, they're actually happier, and as a result, they're healthier. And it has a really big impact, a positive impact on your bottom line. And so I would really urge you to think about the principles that we've talked about in terms of personal life and speaking from the stage. And although the application is different, the principles are exactly the same. That it can be quite difficult when you've been a good salesperson or a good technician to know how best to communicate with people when you've got a range of people who have come from different backgrounds, different levels of expertise and experience, and it's being able to find the right way to communicate for each person. If you have a blanket way of communicating and you aren't aware of the needs of different people within your organization, it's very difficult to ensure that the communication is effective. And I have, worked with so many people where the communication was poor. Lots of words were being said, but what was being said was not being translated and understood by the person who was listening. And not because they spoke a different language, they were not because the English was their second language, but because that the language was being not being used in a way that made it clear and made it easy for people to understand. So there was much room for miscommunication, misunderstanding. And that unsettles people. It really, it feeds trouble. It feeds discontent. And when your communication is right, when you are getting your message effectively, both in terms of its content and the underpinning values that it represents, then when that is done well, it has an enormous impact on business. So go and have a look at ginagardnerassociates.co.uk and you will see courses there, 1 and 2 day courses. But if you want to have a chat with me, then email me at gina@genuinely-you.com. I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you. Please do let other people know. Remember the B1G1, we want to feed as many people as possible. But whatever happens, remember that you have the opportunity to be the leader in your own life, to step into your genuine power, to be the person who, if you can't control the situation, you at least have a choice in terms of how you respond to it. So have a great week. See you next week. Be the leader of your own life.
You have been listening to The Leadership for Life with your host, Gina Gardner. Make sure you tune in to W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV next Thursday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for more Leadership for Life. If you missed any part of this episode or just want to hear or see it again, you can find the archive of the TV show on Talk 4 TV's YouTube channel and the podcast of The Leadership for Life on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast.